The clock read 7:47 p.m. The house was silent. In the kitchen, a single yellowish lamp flickered over the table, illuminating the steam still rising from the coffee cup. She was there, alone, her eyes fixed on her cell phone resting next to the mug. I waited. I waited for a call, a message, any sign of life. The sound of the refrigerator was the only thing that broke the silence. Every now and then, she sighed deeply, stirred her spoon in her cup, and glanced back at the screen blank, cold, without any notifications. Outside, she could see the distant flicker of a busy street. There, the world went on as usual, horns, honking, laughter, people coming and going. But inside that house, time seemed to stand still. She thought, funny. When they need me, the phone never stops ringing. And for a second, a bitter smile escaped her tired lips. She ran a hand through her hair, looked around the set table, the empty chairs, the dish she still hadn't felt like eating. It was one of the children's birthdays. She had texted early, as she always did, with my love, congratulations, may God bless you, but no one answered. And then, that silent but piercing question invaded her heart. Why am I always there, when no one is there for me? Her eyes welled up. She took a deep breath, trying to swallow the lump in her throat, and murmured to herself, almost in a whisper, is this how it ends? We take care of everyone, until no one remembers us anymore. The imaginary camera slowly pulls away, leaving the woman alone at the table, while the distant sound of the street grows fainter, then disappears. The narration enters softly, with the voice of someone who understands the pain. This is the story of a woman who dedicated her entire life to others, her children, her husband, her family, her neighbors. A woman who believed that to love was to give of oneself without limits. But what happens when the one who has always cared finally needs to be cared for and finds out she's alone? Today, you will meet the woman who took care of everyone, but no one took care of her. Her name is Helena. But it could be the name of any woman who loved more than she was loved. From a young age, life taught Helena that love came with effort. The eldest daughter of a simple family, she grew up helping her mother around the house and taking care of her younger siblings. While other girls dreamed of dresses and parties, she dreamed of a full day of rest. At 12, she already knew how to cook, sew, and soothe crying babies. At 16, she worked as a seamstress's assistant and saved every penny she had to buy notebooks for her brothers. He never complained. He felt it was his mission, and perhaps it was. Time passed, and she married young. Not because it was a great love, but because it seemed like a natural step for someone who had always cared for others. Her husband, Jose, was a man of few words, hard-working, yes, but cold. He never mistreated her, but he never really looked at her, either. And Helena, who had always given so much, became accustomed to less. When her children arrived, 2 boys and a girl, she believed that, finally, she would have her love back. And for a few years, it did. The laughter in the house, the simple parties, the late nights nursing fevers, all of this filled her heart with purpose. She felt alive when someone needed her. Being needed was her way of being. But time, cruel and patient, gradually took that away. The children grew up, the husband distanced himself, and the days began to repeat themselves like blurred copies of the previous ones. Even so, she remained steadfast. I made everyone's favorite lunch. She guarded the memories of the good times like someone sheltering embers in a strong wind, just to keep the heat from completely extinguishing. Helena was known in the neighborhood as the woman who fixes everything. She was the one who brought soup when someone was sick, who lent money even when she didn't have any, who looked after the neighbor's baby so the mother could work. Everyone said, Donna Helena is an angel, and she smiled. But deep down, he wondered, would anyone be an angel for me? Sometimes at night, he would sit on the porch and look up at the sky. He thought about everything he had already experienced and everything he had never experienced. I remembered the dream of traveling one day, of seeing the sea, of learning to dance. But soon she smiled and said to herself, nonsense. That's for those who have time to dream. The truth is, Helena never had time for herself. It was as if her life were a long to-do list, and she was always at the end of it. And the most painful thing was that no one noticed the fatigue behind her smile. The children said, Mom is just like that, strong. The husband said, you can handle anything, Helena, and she believed. Because, after hearing so much that he was strong, he forgot that he could also break. but there were times when the masks slipped, especially on Sunday nights when the house was quiet. She looked at the old photos, her little children, Jose smiling, her in the middle, and felt a pang in her chest. It wasn't missing people, it was missing herself. How many times did she just want a hug for no reason? How many times have you wished someone would say, "Are you tired? Sit down, let me take care of it." But that never happened. And then she smiled, pretended to be fine, and said it was just tiredness. Little by little, the lively, dreamy woman became the portrait of all the women who lived to keep the world turning and end up forgotten by it. Helena continued to be the one who brought cake to birthdays, the one who remembered dates, the one who prayed for everyone, but no one remembered hers. And this is how her life came to a close. Caring, 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 hoping deep in her heart that one day someone would do the same for her. But the day never came, and the body, tired of so much silence, began to warn. First with minor pains, then with weaknesses she ignored. Until one day, the warning came in the cruelest way possible. Her life seemed calm on the outside, but inside, something was about to fall apart. The alarm clock rings at 5:23 a.m., as if predicting the exact moment Helena's sleep is at its deepest. She wakes with a gentle start, rubs her eyes, and, before she can think, feels the twinge in her right knee, an old message from her body that she's been ignoring for years. She gropes on the nightstand, finds her glasses, takes a deep breath. The room is dim. Jose sleeps on his side, facing the wall, breathing heavily, a slight snore. For a second, she watches him. His face is marked by time, like hers, fine lines, a furrowed brow. Life has passed quickly, she thinks, but quickly gets up. There's no time for late-night memories. In the kitchen, the yellow light comes on with a snap. Helena puts the kettle on the fire. The gas hisses, the match pops, and the ritual begins. While waiting for the water to boil, she takes the broom and sweeps the floor carefully, sweeping up the crumbs left over from yesterday. The children, who are now adults, ate in the living room, and she, tired, left it for today. The battery-powered radio on the refrigerator hisses a bit before finding its tune. A slow song comes on, an old 4/0 reminiscent of the Snow Joe festivals she almost missed. Helena smiles and returns to the stove. The coffee starts to rise, and the kitchen fills with an aroma that feels like a hug. She prepares 2 mugs, hers, with less sugar, Jose's, with 3 heaping spoons. As always, the spoon taps against the enamel, producing a homely, comforting sound. Open the bread, slice carefully, spread butter. The butter melts. Today I'm buying fruit for Donna Teresa, he thinks, remembering his sick neighbor from 12. And I have to check Daniel's electricity bill. If I let him, he'll cut it. Pause. She rests her hands on the counter and feels her lower back ache. You close your eyes for a second. Just a hot shower will help, you think, knowing that today the shower will be after lunch. Jose comes down the stairs, his steps dragging. "Good morning," he says, without raising his voice or his eyes too much. "Good morning," she replies, placing the mug in front of him. He picks up his cell phone, slides his fingers, gives a short laugh at some joke in the group of friends. "The bread is warm," she comments, looking for a thread of conversation. He nods, without looking, already pulling at the butter. Silence. Helena sips her coffee slowly, watching her husband. The sound of the radio, the hiss of the street waking up, a dog barking in the distance. Jose, the tank tap is dripping. She tries. "The guy said he'd trade for little things, but I'll see you on Saturday." He cuts in automatically. He always says Saturday, Helena thinks, and sips the rest of her coffee. Saturday never comes. At 6:15, the phone vibrates. It's the daughter, Carolina. "Good morning, Mom. Can you stop by the pharmacy? I need some rhinitis medicine today." Helena replies, "Yes, I can, my flower." And he adds mentally, "After the market, the bakery, Donna Teresa, the lottery shop, the bus hydro that needs a refill for Daniel." She smiles. It's a sweet, tired smile, because, for her, love is a list. At 6:40 a.m., Daniel, the middle son, appears with his backpack and a crooked cap. "Mom, where's the lunchbox?" "Here," she points to the glass jar, wrapped in a cloth to prevent breakage. "I made chicken and vegetables." Again. He complains, without malice. "Already leaving. Tomorrow I'll make pasta." "Okay. Thanks." A hurried kiss in the air, not even touching her face. Helena closes the gate, watches Daniel walk down the street. The sun hasn't yet burned. The wind is cool. She thinks about shouting, "Take a light jacket," but swallows the phrase, like so many others. At 7 a.m., the kitchen is clean, the table set again, the calm of an empty house. Helena washes her hands for a long time, as if trying to remove the invisible weight from her skin. He takes an old notebook from the drawer. The cover is already loose. It's the account notebook. It opens to a page with shaky pencil columns: water, electricity, gas, medicine, Donna, Teresa, bus, Daniel, Carolina. Alongside are dates, arrows, and the word urgent circled. She makes a line, adds it up in her head. Something doesn't add up. It's okay. I'll manage. Deep in the distance, a voice whispers, "And who will take care of you?" Helena closes her notebook. She leaves the house with her purse slung over her shoulder, her cloth bag over her arm. At the gate, she checks to see if she's taken her wallet, her list, her pharmacy card. She presses the gate locked. The street is alive. The girl on the corner sweeps the sidewalk. The baker passes by shouting hot. The bus rumbles up. A neighbor nods. "Good morning, Donna Helena," and then adds, "If you have a chance, could you come by this afternoon? My mom has a cough." "Yes, I will," Helena replies, because that's her reflex. Her yes comes before may I. At the market, she compares prices, counts coins, grabs some rice, beans, and oil. Look at the frozen chicken and think about Daniel's comment. "Pasta tomorrow." He passes by the fruit section and picks up some bananas for Donna Teresa. He sees the pretty apples and hesitates. "I deserve an apple," and puts them back. Another day. In line, two women talk about a trip to the beach. Helena looks at their sandals and their well-manicured nails. She smiles. "It's been a while since I've had my nails done." The line moves. She feels the bag weigh on her shoulder and switches sides. Her spine protests. At the pharmacy, she asks for Carolina's medicine. "Do you have a registration?" the clerk asks hurriedly. "Yes, I do." "CPF, she says slowly. "Want to take this smoothie? It's on sale," the girl insists. Helena almost says yes, but thinks about her account book. Leave it for another time. She stuffs the medicine into her purse and makes a mental note. Remember to send a photo to Carol. Following the list, Helena turns the corner and rings the doorbell at number 12. Donna Teresa takes a while, but opens the door. Her skin is very white, her eyes are small, and she has a dry cough. "My daughter," the old woman smiled, relieved. "I thought you weren't coming today." "Yes, I did, Donna Teresa. I brought bananas and bread. And I made some chicken soup yesterday. It's here. It's still good." "God bless you," Helena says, the old woman, with that gratitude that weighs and warms at the same time. Helena helps organize the medicines, changes the water in the filter, and sweeps the room a little. "Do you need anything, ma'am, from you, my daughter?" "Only from you." The two look at each other in a silence that speaks volumes. Helena feels a small lump in her throat. "Who has me?" she thinks, and squeezes the elderly woman's thin hand. Back outside, the sun is already warming. She adjusts her bag, feels her blouse stick to her back. The cell phone vibrates. It's the family group, guys. Who's going to be able to stop by Mom's today? She needs to see the faucet thing. Helena reads quickly she's the mother, and realizes she sent the message herself, hours ago, and no one responded. Now the group stirs. "Carolina, I can't do it today, Mom. Meeting Daniel. I work, Mom. Maybe tomorrow. Jose, I'll see you on Saturday." Helena types "okay" and deletes. Types "no problem" and deletes. Types a heart and sends. It's easier. Back home, she puts away the groceries, sets aside Donna Teresa's bag to take out later in the afternoon, leaves Carolina's medicine on the table so she doesn't forget, turns on the fan, and goes to the sink. The tap drips ping, ping, ping. She puts down a basin, but the sound continues. It makes her want to cry, but she laughs at herself. "I'll call the guy." "Okay." She picks up the phone and searches for the contact: Sue Almere Plumber. Her finger hovers over the call button. She thinks about her account book. She puts the phone back down. Lunchtime, Helena heats up the beans, opens a pot with yesterday's rice, chops garlic, fries it in a little oil. The smell spreads through the kitchen. Jose arrives, takes the plate, serves himself. "How was it at work?" she tries. "Same," he replies, chewing. "Daniel is at work. Carol told me about the meeting. Tomorrow I'll stop by Teresa's house again." "You're exaggerating, Helena," he says, without any obvious malice. "The woman has a family. And what am I, Jose?" The question comes out before she can control it. He looks at her for the first time that day, surprised, without an answer. Nothing. Double quotes. She backs away, meekly. Eat. It'll get cold. After lunch, the house falls into the silent rhythm of the afternoon. Helena washes the dishes, looks at her wrinkled hands, her unpolished nails. She listens to the radio softly. Sit on the sofa for a moment, just to stretch your back. The wall clock ticks. The fan whirs. She closes her eyes. Her body, for a second, begs for more. Lie down, Helena, but the list reappears. Pick up gas. Call Daniel from the account. Stop by the lottery shop. Bring Carol's medicine on the way back. She stands up, returns to the tank. The ping-ping is now irritating. I'll deal with it later, she says to the wall. At 4:20 p.m., Helena walks back to 12. Take the soup, some bread, and a note with reminders about Donna Teresa's medicine schedule. You are an angel, repeats the old woman, her voice fragile. Tired angel, Helena jokes, but her eyes shine. Rest then, rest later. She kisses the lady on the forehead and leaves. On the way home, Helena passes in front of the neighborhood dance school. The open doors let out an old samba tune. Inside, women of various ages slowly spin around, laughing, and a teacher claps. Helena slows her pace. She leans against the railing, watches, and an ancient movement awakens in her body. Her foot unintentionally follows the rhythm. The school owner notices, smiles, and comes to the door. Come, try it, my dear. First class is free. Helena is embarrassed and adjusts the bag on her shoulder. Another day will never come again, huh? The woman says softly, without pressure. I'll be back, Helena promises to herself. And to herself. She keeps walking, but carries the compass in her heart for a few more blocks. She arrives home at dusk, an orange sky too beautiful for an ordinary day. She puts the bag down on the table and lets out a long sigh. He picks up his cell phone to tell Carolina about the medicine. First, she opens the gallery, without meaning to. The front camera activates. The reflection catches Helena by surprise. A tired face, carelessly tied hair, a look that has learned to wait. She sees herself for real for 2 seconds. She looks away, takes a picture of the medicine, and sends it to her daughter. Here it is, my love. Come back later. The message displays. No response. Night falling. Helena prepares a simple pasta. She remembers Daniel. Bring water to a boil. Grate the cheese. Chop the tomato and garlic. The kitchen is lit with a warm light, a coziness that only exists when someone cooks with others in mind. The gate slams. Carolina enters and speaks on speakerphone to someone from work. Hi, Mom. Where's the medicine? She kisses the air and runs to her room, her bag hitting her leg. It's on the table. Helena answers loudly, to close the distance. Daniel arrives soon after, drops his backpack on the sofa, and fiddles with his cell phone. Are you going to eat? Helena asks, hopefully. I'm going out, Mom, but I'll eat a little, he says, already checking his notifications. The table is set. Jose, Carolina, and Daniel sit down, but there is almost no conversation. Helena serves the dishes, observing each one. She waits for a comment, a question, any sign. Okay, Mom, Daniel says, his mouth full, and stands up from the middle of his plate. Coming out. Take a coat, it's hot, Mom. Corner kiss, smell of cologne, door slamming. Carolina, with the medicine in her bag, sends an audio message to someone. More pasta? Jose asks. Not critically, but as an observation. Daniel likes it, she answers, collecting his already empty plate. The noise of the television fills the room. News, numbers, crimes, politics. Helena finishes eating alone, chewing slowly, listening to the persistent ticking. Then, back to the sink, cold water on her warm hands. She keeps the leftovers in a little jar, writes Daniel with tape and pen. Turn off the lights, check the doors, close the windows. The body asks for bed, the feet throb, but she passes by on the balcony. The night is cool. The street, quieter, has rare footsteps and the yellow lights of the street lights. Helena sits for a minute, the wooden bench creaking under her light weight. She looks at the sky, few stars, and thinks of nothing. It's the only way to avoid pain. The cell phone vibrates. Group message. Is everyone here at home for the game tomorrow? Daniel wrote. Carolina, I'm in. Joseph, me too. Helena, should I do something? Silence. She smiles. Of course I do. She deletes the message, which she never even sent. When she goes to bed, almost 11 p.m., the hallway mirror calls her again. She stares at herself longer this time. He raises his hand, fixes a strand of white hair, tries to smile. The smile returns small, and in the eyes a shy question takes shape. If I disappeared tomorrow, who would miss my coffee? It's a question disguised as a joke, but it hurts. Helena turns off the light and enters the room. Jose is already asleep. The television changes, flashing blue images. She lays down slowly so as not to wake him, hugs her own arm, as if offering herself care. Close your eyes. The account book somewhere in the house seems to breathe along with her. The tap drips. Ping, ping, ping. The routine seemed normal, but her body screamed softly, and no one listened. Fatigue called for help, and she responded with more giving, until the day the silence became too heavy, and broke. A glass in the sink, the basin under the tap, the reflection of the moon on the sheet of water that grows, drop by drop. He sleeps at home. Helena too. The world outside turns indifferently, and what is about to happen no one can imagine. The clock on the wall read to 12 p.m. The sun streamed in through the kitchen window, cutting the air in a beam of golden light. The heat was suffocating. Helena had just returned from the market, her face wet with sweat, her hands marked by the handles of her bags. She dropped everything on the table and stood there, breathing heavily, her heart racing. Just a glass of water, she thought. He opened the refrigerator, grabbed the pitcher, but his arm failed. The water ran out. The pitcher almost fell. The cold floor called to his feet as a relief, but when he tried to take the first step, the world spun. A dizzying sensation, the kind that distorts time. The walls moved, the air was lacking. She tried to lean against the chair, but her legs wouldn't budge. And before he could understand, he was on the ground. The impact was dull, the sound muffled, vision blurred, ears rang. The kettle, still on the stove, began to hiss a high-pitched, insistent sound, as if it were screaming for her. Helena blinked, trying to keep her eyes open. His whole body felt heavy, his arm was tingling, his heart was beating too fast. What's happening to me? He tried to say, but his voice wouldn't come out. The clock kept ticking. 14H13, 14H14. Each minute felt like an eternity. She dragged herself slowly, the cold floor sticking to her skin. He saw the cell phone on the table a meter away. A meter that, at that moment, felt like a marathon. With effort, he pushed his body, inch by inch. The floor smelled of soap and loneliness. He reached the chair, pulled the tablecloth off the table, and the cell phone fell. The sharp thud of the device hitting the floor echoed like a gunshot. With trembling hands, she picked it up. The screen lit up. The bright light blinded her teary eyes. He dialed his son Daniel's number and called once, 2, 3, 4. Automatic voice. The number you called is busy. Try again later. Carolina tried. The ringing echoed. 1, 2, 3. The hold music played like irony. Then, silence. It went to voicemail. Jose tried. The husband, a ray of hope. He called, until the phone stopped. No response. She stared at the screen for a moment. The reflection of his own face trembled in the glass. A pale, sweaty, terrified face. There is no one. The sentence came as an internal whisper. Tears began to fall. Hot. She tried to take a deep breath, but it felt trapped. She was there, on the kitchen floor surrounded by memories. The embroidered towel she sewed with her mother. The old tiles, from when the house was full of life. The sound of the clock, and that damned kettle whistle. He closed his eyes, trying to remember the last time someone had held his hand. I didn't remember. Maybe when her daughter was little and crossing the street. Or when Jose would still take off his shoes and ask, "How was your day?" But it had been so long. He tried to get up, but his body wouldn't respond. His right arm was heavy, his leg was failing. Is it my heart, he thought, or just tiredness? Maybe both. Her heart had been growing weary for many years. Her mind began to race in flashes. The time he took care of his mother until her last breath. The time she carried her son with a fever at 2 a.m. The time he sold his wedding ring to buy their Christmas present. All of that. All. And now, who would carry her if she couldn't get up? She looked at the door. He imagined the gate locked. He imagined the neighbors passing by. Life going on. The distant sound of a car. A dog barking. No one would know. No one. A deep pain, not in the body, but in the soul, began to grow. It wasn't fear of dying. It was fear of not being felt. to disappear and the world remain the same, of his absence being just another ordinary day. The tears flowed freely. She murmured, "Oh my God, is this it? Is this how it ends?" The kettle stopped hissing. The silence grew heavy. The clock read to 28 p.m., 15 minutes of despair that felt like an eternity. With what little strength she had left, she dragged herself to the stove, holding onto the counter. The body was shaking, the heart was beating too hard, every movement was a struggle. He managed to get up, little by little. His head was throbbing, his breathing was short. He leaned against the sink and stood there, breathing. The tears were still flowing. He looked around. Everything in place. The purchases are still on the table. The open bags, a packet of rice fallen on the floor. And in the midst of it all, fragile, invisible, with the feeling that, for a moment, the whole world had forgotten her, picked up her phone again. No new messages. No return. No, "Are you okay?" And then, what strength remained, turned to emptiness. She sat down on the floor again, leaning against the wall, and began to laugh softly. A nervous, trembling, almost desperate laugh. Because the irony was too big to fit in my chest. He took care of everyone, of all. But when it was her turn, no one showed up. The laughter turned to tears. An ugly, choked cry, from someone who has been holding it in for years. Hands covered face. The sound echoed in the empty kitchen. It was at that moment that the phone vibrated. A short sound. The heart skipped a beat. He grabbed the device in a hurry. Message from Carolina. "Hi Mom, sorry, I was in a meeting. How are you?" Helena stared at the screen, her thumb trembling on the keyboard. I could tell the truth. I could tell, but he couldn't. Typed, "It's okay, my love. Take care of yourself." And he sent it. The cell phone slipped from his hands. She stood there, staring at the ceiling. The heart slowed down, but the pain didn't. The body trembled, and the soul, weary, seemed to ask for a truce. The distant rumble of a truck, the neighbor's whistle, the sound of a pot falling from the house next door. The world continued, and there she was, trying to remember why she was still standing. She closed her eyes, her face wet, her chest tight. A silent prayer escaped, no words, just intention. "God, if you still see me, just don't let me die without someone noticing." And for the first time in a long time, she fell asleep without wanting to, on the kitchen floor, surrounded by silence. That day, Helena understood what it means to be forgotten by those we love most, not because they didn't love her, but because they got used to having it always there, firm, available, eternal. And no one realizes that even the strongest columns will one day crack. The day dawned, but Helena didn't notice. She had slept on the sofa, still dressed in the clothes from the day before, her body aching, her head heavy. The kitchen floor where he had fallen still bore traces of scattered rice and a dark stain of dried coffee. The kettle tipped over, rested silently in the corner of the sink. For a few seconds, she didn't know where it was. Then the memory came like a punch. The cold ground, the despair, the unanswered connections. He stood up slowly, his legs trembling, his heart racing again. He went to the bathroom and washed his face with cold water. The mirror returned an image she didn't recognize. Puffy eyes, pale skin, disheveled hair. She looked like a different woman, an aged version of the woman she once was. "I'm alive," she murmured, as if needing confirmation for herself. And then he added, in an almost ironic tone, "But why?" The sound of the cell phone on the table broke the silence. A notification in the family group. "Carolina, guys, the game is here today, right? Daniel?" "Yes." "Mom, please make your pasta." Helena stared at the screen, motionless. Then he typed, "Sure," and it went out. He typed again, "Of course, my love." And he sent. The normality imposed by others seemed crueler than any offense. She had fallen, screamed for help, and no one had heard. Now everyone was talking about the game, as if nothing had happened. He walked to the kitchen and took a deep breath. The groceries were still half finished on the table. He began to put them away, one by one. The body obeyed out of habit, the heart out of inertia. He cleaned the floor, washed the jug, put new coffee on to boil. All the same. But inside her, the noise was different. As she stirred the spoon in her mug, thoughts came in waves. Would they notice me if I disappeared? Would anyone think Mom didn't answer? Or would they only notice at dinner time? The coffee boiled over and rose. Helena was startled and hurriedly turned off the stove. He laughed softly, the kind of laugh that comes from despair. Even the coffee can't hear me properly, he muttered. The clock read Dodanschutzifen. Jose was still sleeping. She thought about telling what happened, but soon gave up. She imagined his look skeptical, tired, and the inevitable phrase, "You're trying too hard, Helena." No, it wasn't worth it. So she kept quiet. She made the coffee, prepared the bread, and set the table. When Joseph came down, he found everything in its place. "Did you sleep badly?" he asked, seeing her face. She hesitated a little. "You should get more rest," he said, picking up the newspaper. And the matter died there, as always. Helena observed him for a while, his hands leafing through the newspaper, the cup clinking on its saucer, the absence of any direct gaze. That scene that had once been common now seemed absurd. How many years have we lived together without seeing each other? He thought. After he left, the house fell silent. The kind of silence that screams. She walked around the room slowly, as if she were inside a memory. He touched the picture frame of his young children. They were smiling, cake-smeared, their faces lit up. In that photo, she was young. There was hope in her eyes. "I thought love was enough," she whispered, her voice breaking. The tears came again, silently, like a familiar visitor. He sat down on the sofa, hugged a pillow, and stayed there still. She wasn't thinking about dying, but she also saw no reason to continue. The sound of a notification on her phone woke her. Message from Carolina. "Mom, can you wash my uniform today? I need it tomorrow morning." Helena replied automatically, "Of course," the same of course as always. But this time, the word came out empty. He took the uniform to the washing machine, added detergent, and turned the knob. As he waited for the water to fill, he sat on the laundry room step and closed his eyes. The breeze hit my face. She thought about how her life fit into that scene. The smell of soap, the mechanical sound of the machine, and there she was, waiting for the next cycle to begin. Everything started again except her. That same afternoon, her neighbor, Donna Teresa, sent a voice message. "Helena, my daughter, are you okay? I haven't seen you today." Helena listened, but took a while to respond. He almost typed, "I'm not well," but she ended up saying, "It's okay, just tired." The lady replied, "You are strong. God bless you." Helena smiled sadly. That's what everyone says, she thought. Strong, as if being strong were a choice. At night, family dinner, the game on television, the children laughing, Jose complaining about the referee. The kitchen was full. The smell of the pasta she made was the same as always. Helena served the dishes, smiling automatically, but something inside her watched everything from the outside, as if she no longer belonged to that scene, as if she were watching her own life from afar. At one point, Carolina looked at her and said, "Mom, you're acting strange. Is everything okay?" Helena froze for a moment. 1,000 answers came to mind. "No, I'm not okay. I fell. I screamed for you." But custom spoke louder. "Yes, I am, my love. I'm just tired." Carolina smiled, relieved, and returned to the game. And then Helena understood. People only ask questions when they already have the answer they want to hear. After dinner, she cleared the dishes, washed the dishes, and cleared the table. The sound of the water masked the crying he was trying to contain. When he finished, he leaned his back against the sink and looked at the reflection in the window. Her face blended into the dark street, and for the first time, she felt truly invisible. She walked slowly upstairs to her room. Jose was already asleep. She lay on her side, hugging the pillow, and the thought returned. What if I had died yesterday? No response, just the sound of the clock. In the middle of the night, he woke up with his heart racing. It wasn't pain, it was dread. She had dreamed that she was on the kitchen floor again, alone. He got up, went to the living room, and turned on the light. He sat on the sofa, taking a deep breath. The tears came back. But this time, I wasn't crying out of fear. I cried because I understood that I could no longer live like this. It was a weary sadness, the kind of grief that doesn't scream, but empties. The next morning, as she washed her face, she stared in the mirror. The look was different. There was no anger, no hope, just decision. A whisper escaped her lips, low but full of truth. "I don't want to live forgotten anymore." And, even without knowing what that meant yet, she knew that something inside her had changed. A thin, timid thread of strength began to form. It wasn't joy. It was weariness with awareness. The first step in a revolution. Sometimes rock bottom isn't the end. It's the ground where we finally stop digging. And Helena, was about to discover that the love she was looking for would not come from outside, but from within. The sound of rain hitting the roof was almost a relief. After weeks of heat, the cold wind invaded the house through the cracks. Helena woke up early, as always. But this time, she didn't rush to the kitchen. She sat on the edge of the bed, her bare feet touching the cold floor, her body still. She looked around. The simple room, the walls decorated with old portraits, the lampshade a little askew. All the same, but something about her wasn't the same. That morning, there was a silent certainty within her. She couldn't live like this anymore. She got up slowly and went to the hallway mirror. The same mirror that had shown her tiredness for weeks. But today she didn't look away. She stood still, observing every line of her face. The wrinkles, the dark circles, the graying of her hair. He felt no shame. He felt sorry, pitied the woman who had always been everything to everyone and nothing to herself. For a moment, she saw her mother in the reflection. The same tired expression, the same look that said everything's fine when it wasn't. And it was then that something inside her broke. The tears came, but not in despair. And, between sobs, she murmured to herself, her voice trembling, "I'm tired, but I'm not dead." It was the first time in a long time that she had spoken to her own soul. At breakfast, Jose came down as usual. Helena was sitting at the table, but the coffee was not ready yet. He found it strange. "It is good to..." She looked at him calmly. "Okay, yes. I just didn't want to make coffee today." Jose frowned. "What do you mean, you didn't want to?" "Exactly, not today." He fell silent, surprised. The sound of rain filled the space. She didn't explain. He grabbed his coat and went out. Outside, the air was cool and clean. Helena walked slowly along the sidewalk, aimlessly. Drops fell on the faded blue umbrella. For the first time in a long time, she felt the world, the smell of wet earth, the rustle of leaves, the distant sound of children walking to school. Without realizing it, her footsteps took her to the front of the neighborhood dance school, the same one she always passed, and of which she always said, "One day I'll come back." Today, she walked in. The receptionist smiled. "Yes." Helena took a deep breath. "I want to dance." The girl blinked in surprise. "Do you want to enroll?" "I don't know yet, but I want to try." The teacher, a woman with red hair and a welcoming smile, came to meet her. "Come, my love. Today is samba class. No one is born knowing how." Helena took off her shoes. The cold floor under her feet made her laugh. The other women, of various ages, moved to the music. She stood there for a few seconds, embarrassed. But when the drums began, her body remembered something her mind had forgotten: the joy of existence. One step, two, a stumble. The others laughed, and she laughed along. She laughed at herself, and that laughter was liberating. When the song ended, she was sweaty, her hair plastered to her forehead, her heart light. The teacher approached. "So, did you like it?" Helena responded with the most beautiful smile she had given in years. "I liked myself." On the way home, it was raining harder. She took out her umbrella and let the rain wet her face. Each drop seemed to wash away some of the accumulated pain. "It's not too late," he thought. "As long as I feel the wind, it's not too late." At home, Jose looked surprised. "You're soaked. Where did you go?" "To dance." His eyes widened. "Dance? Alone?" "Yes, alone." "Helena," he began, confused. She interrupted him, not angrily, but firmly. "Jose, I spent my whole life serving you, taking care of the children, the neighbors, everyone. And now I want to take care of myself." The silence was heavy. Hosea didn't know what to say. She didn't expect an answer either. At dinner, her children were home. Carolina came with the same requests as always. "Mom, I need a favor tomorrow." Helena took a deep breath and said calmly, "Tomorrow, I can't." The daughter's eyes widened. "What do you mean, Mom? Tomorrow is the day of my dance class. Daniel Ryu dance." "You, ma'am." "Yes, me." He laughed louder. But when he looked into his mother's eyes, the laughter died. Because there was something different. Their fness. Jose tried to hide his curiosity, eating in silence. Helena continued, "I'm not mad at you. So why are you like this?" Carolina asked. "Because I realized that I spent my whole life saying yes, even when I wanted to say no." "Are you sad with us?" "No, Brick. I'm sad with myself, for having forgotten for so long." The silence at the table was profound. The television is off, the rain outside, and the sound of her voice echoing, unhurried. "I took care of all of you. But who took care of me?" Daniel lowered his gaze. Carolina was left without an answer. Jose took a deep breath, embarrassed. Nobody said anything. And, for the first time, Helena didn't need to hear anything. Silence, finally, was not loneliness. It was respect. After dinner, she washed her own cup and left the rest in the sink. Mom, do you need help? Carolina asked shyly. Not today, daughter. It is good to and it was. That night, Helena went to sleep with her hair still damp from the rain. The pillows smelled like new soap. Before closing his eyes, he looked at the ceiling and whispered a simple sentence, "Thank you, God, for giving me back to myself." And he slept with a light smile, the kind of smile that is not displayed, but lives in the chest. Helena's turnaround didn't come with applause or promises. It came in small steps, no here, a yes to herself, there, because starting over isn't about shouting to the world that you've changed. It is to begin, silently, to choose yourself. The sun came in softly through the curtain. Helena opened the window and, for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel rushed. There was no pot on the stove, no clothes waiting on the line, no message asking for a favor. There was only her and the cool morning wind. Outside, the children were walking to school. The baker passed by, waved, and she responded with a genuine smile. The same smile that, for years, had been just a disguise. Now, it was real. On the table, a simple coffee, just one cup. She took it slowly, looking up at the sky. The hands, which were always busy before, now rested. The silence, previously uncomfortable, was now peaceful. Josue went downstairs. He looked at the scene and was surprised by the emptiness. "Aren't you going to the market today?" he asked. Helena turned her face to him, serene. "No, today I'm just going to the salon." "Hall, yes, I want to cut my hair." He frowned in confusion. "But it's fine like this." She smiled. "Okay, maybe. I want to change." And he did. That same day, he left the house with light steps. The sun beating down on your face, the sound of cars, the wind blowing through your hair. In the salon, the mirror revealed a new woman. The gray hairs were still there, but now they shone with pride. Helena looked at herself, and what she saw was not vanity. It was attendance. In the afternoon, he went to dance class. The teacher welcomed her with a hug. "I thought you weren't coming anymore," he said. "Now I come every week," Helena replied, determined, danced. It turned. He laughed out loud. The body, previously heavy, seemed light. Every movement was a victory against the years she'd spent standing, still waiting for someone to see her. When she returned home, her children were in the living room. Carolina looked surprised. "Mom, you cut your hair. You look beautiful." Helena laughed. "I thought it was time for a change." Daniel, a little embarrassed, commented, "It's different, Mom. It's happy." She looked at him fondly. "I'm learning to stay." The atmosphere was different. Conversations now came with pauses, genuine looks. The children began to realize how far they had drifted away, and Joseph, silent, watched from afar. Maybe she felt guilt, maybe she was afraid of losing what she had always taken for granted. One night, while she was folding clothes, he approached her. "You're acting strange, Helena." "Strange how?" "Quiet, but different. I'm more with myself," she said calmly. "And me." She thought for a moment. "Me too. But only when you want to be." Jose remained silent. Perhaps she had never heard such a candon from no. In the following days, Helena began to go out more, not to solve things, but to live. One afternoon, he went to the square. He sat on the bench, took off his shoes, and felt the cool grass on his feet. He looked at the movement of people and felt something new, belonging without dependence. She no longer needed to be the center of anyone's life. It was enough to be the center of one's own. At the end of the afternoon, he bought flowers. Not for someone. For her. He placed it in a vase in the middle of the room, in plain sight. The smell filled the house. It was as if, along with the flowers, the woman she always wanted to be entered. On Sunday, her children came over for lunch. Carolina brought dessert. Daniel helped set the table, a rare thing. Jose put music on the radio. The mood was light, almost cheerful. At one point, Carolina looked at her mother and said, "Mom, can I ask you something?" "He can. Are you mad at us?" Helena smiled, her gaze sweet. "No, daughter, I'm at peace." "And how is that?" "It's when we understand that we no longer need to beg to be loved." Carolina lowered her eyes, moved. "Daniel," quietly, moved, the napkin in his hands. Hosea just watched, with that look of someone seeing something precious for the first time. Lunch ended with laughter. Helena couldn't remember the last time she laughed like that. Maybe when the children were still young. But now, the laughter came from somewhere else, from the lightness. That night, after everyone had left, she was left alone on the porch. The moon was high, the air fresh. He grabbed a blanket, sat in the armchair and closed his eyes. He thought about everything he had experienced, and everything she endured in silence. All the times you swallowed the pain so it wouldn't bother you, and in all the women who lived the same, spread throughout the world. A gentle thought arose. How many are still on the floor of their own kitchen, thinking they have no value? She sighed deeply and whispered, "If I may, I want to say to each of you, don't wait for the love of others to rise up. It starts with you." The sound of the street was peaceful. A dog barked in the distance. The wind moved the curtains. The house, once a scene of weariness, was now a shelter. And, for the first time, Helena felt something she hadn't felt in decades, lightness in her chest. Liberation is not noisy. Sometimes it's just the silence of a woman drinking coffee alone, and, for the first time, feeling like she's exactly where she's supposed to be. Helena did not become a heroine. It didn't change the world. He just learned to see himself, and that's already a revolution. The day dawns slowly. The sky is tinged with shades of orange, and the bird song announces another morning. Helena stands on the porch, holding the same cup of coffee that has accompanied her for so many years, but now it's hot, and she sips it slowly. The camera zooms in, and the narrator speaks softly, almost whispering. For a long time, Helena believed that caring for others was the same as love, that being good was the same as nullifying oneself, and that, one day, the world would return in equal measure the love she spread. But the world did not return. And it was there, in the silence of solitude, that she discovered the most important love of all, self-love. Helena looks out at the garden. The flowers she planted days before sway in the wind. The short hair moves around the face. The look is serene. She seems to hear her own breathing. And he smiled. It took a while to understand that healing love doesn't come from outside, that no one can give what they do not know how to offer themselves. And being strong isn't about putting up with everything. It's about knowing when to stop. Pause. The image shifts to her hands on the cupsteady.com. Helena picks up a new notebook. On the cover, a simple phrase. "For me." He opens it to the first page and writes, "Today I chose to take care of myself with the same dedication I once gave to everyone." He closes the notebook and rests his head back against the chair. A smile, a sigh, a new beginning. The narration continues, in a tone of direct reflection to the audience, the moment of the emotional mirror. Maybe you are like Helena too. Maybe you've spent your whole life putting others first. Perhaps you also forgot along the way, believing that love is synonymous with renunciation. And, if that's your case, breathe. The image of Helena looking at the horizon, the sun rising, the light wind, because there is still time to take care of yourself, to say no without guilt, to look at with affection, to dance again, even if it's alone in the room. Helena gets up, adjusts the curtain, and the light floods the entire room. Her face lights up. The narration continues. Being good doesn't mean abandoning yourself. Being a mother, wife, daughter, friend, all of these are beautiful, but none of this is worth it if, at the end of the day, you don't know who you are when the silence arrives. The camera shows Helena hanging a photo on the wall, her dancing in class, smiling. Behind her, in the ambient sound, the echo of laughter can be heard. Helena hasn't become a different person. She just remembered who she was before she passed out. And he understood that life doesn't start over when others change. It starts over when we change. Pause. The sound of the piano mixes with the bird song. Helena puts the cup in the sink, dries her hands, looks out the window and says, out loud, calmly, "Thank you, God, for teaching me that the love I always gave was also mine." The narrator concludes, as the camera slowly pulls back, showing the house, the yard, and the rising sun. This is the story of a woman who took care of everyone, and when no one took care of her, she decided to take care of herself. And maybe, deep down, that's your story too. If this story touched you, if at any point you saw yourself in Helena, write here in the comments. What was the day you realized that you also deserved care? Share it, because your story could be the push another woman needs to get up today. And never forget, you still have time Time to start over. Time to choose. Time to love yourself really. The screen slowly fades to black, with the sound of light rain and the final text appearing. Dedicate some of the love you give to others, to yourself,